Okay, howdy folks. This is Jeff Welch here at Welch Family Homestead. And we just had one of the craziest storms just now. And on the upper part of the lake, it's already getting muddy, and that'll cause all the water all the way down through here to get dingy and muddy looking before the end of the day. The winds caught up the other day. You can see a kayak way up there. Here's one of our oars right over here in the water. We'll have to retrieve. Some people have been having tornadoes today. We realize that, and we're praying for you. We know that you've had a rough go at it in some of the areas, especially through Alabama and Georgia and Mississippi. I'm up here in the western North Carolina mountains, and we've had a time with a storm over the last few hours. This is a little break we're going to have for about an hour, I think, about an hour. Let me show you the spillway where the water's coming out of the lake on the top. I do have a pipe right here so it keeps the lake clean. If you don't have a pipe at the top of your lake and you're allowing the water to go out through the bottom of your lake or your pond, I mean, look how wet this ground is right now. And the spillway coming off the dam has a pretty good bit of water running through it. Now, way up there toward the top of the mountain, I'm going to show you how fast these clouds are moving. That gives you a little bit of an idea how fast these clouds are moving. You can hear the wind. You can see the wind blowing through the trees. You can hear the thunder in the background. But right now it's not raining too bad, but it was coming down heavy just a few moments ago. What's happening here at the Welch Family Homestead with a storm here in January. After the storm passes through, it's already chilly, but after the storm passes through, we're going to have some cold nights, some really cold nights. And I know the lake will freeze over probably over the next few days, which that's fine too. If the lake freezes over, if that's what God wants to happen, good Lord knows what's best. Look at that wind blowing across that water. I have to hold on to my hat to keep the wind from blowing my hat off. Now look how muddy it is here. It's coming in. We don't see muddy water coming in very often here in the lake. The rain's kicking up and the wind's kicking up. I can hear it coming over the mountain. So I'm gonna get back on the tractor and head back to the barn. Did you know that the first washing machines that were electric, the first refrigerators and freezers that were electric, you couldn't buy them you had to lease them. And you had to lease them from the, guess what? Electrical company. And if you're leasing them from the electrical company, interestingly, the electrical company brought power, brought electricity to your home. And they charge you for that electricity, but then they also charge you for the wash machine, the electric wash machine and the electric refrigerator that you're leasing from them. Now there's two different perspectives here you have to look at, you have to consider. You got a husband and wife standing there talking to a peddler that works for the electrical company selling leases on appliances, electrical appliances. The wife is going to have a different perspective than the husband at that time. Why? Because to her, she's looking at these electrical appliances, the thoughts of electricity being in their home. And the first thing that comes to her mind is, oh wow, you mean all I have to do is load up that wash machine and put a little water in it, throw some soap in it, come back a few minutes later and take it out? To her, that was a convenience, and it was exciting to her. To the man, when these new conveniences was coming on the market, because back then, usually the man was the one out working and bringing home the, what they call the bacon, the money. His perspective might have been a little different. His perspective might have been looking at that wash machine, that electrical wash machine, or that electrical refrigerator, and the first thing that goes to his mind is, how much is that going to cost me? First of all, I've got to pay for that electricity. Secondly, I've got to pay for all the wiring that has to be put in the house to utilize that electricity. And then thirdly, I have to pay a lease for the wash machine and the refrigerator. So to him, it wasn't making a convenience on his life. It was going to cost him to have to work harder to get that convenience for his wife. Over time, we've seen progress. We've seen a lot of things happen that's changed the world. A lot of modern appliances, a lot of modern technology in today's world. Sometimes, depending on your perspective, it might be a good thing. From someone else's perspective, it may not be a good thing. Just like social media and other technology, just like YouTube, like I'm talking to you right now on a video that's recorded from my iPhone right now. I don't have my regular camera on me, I just have my iPhone on me right now. It's a digital image. And I'm speaking to you, and I'm able to speak to thousands of people this way. Before this convenience, before this technology, we might have had to go down the street, talk to the person face to face, or pick up a telephone and dial a number to call someone to actually communicate with them. Technology has, yes, convenienced many of us. To some people, though, that's not necessarily a positive thing. Sometimes it has disconnected us from the ability to communicate face to face with one another and actually be truly sociable in the normal ways. Now, I love technology, I love modern advances, but I also appreciate the things of the past, traditions of the past, the things that have brought us strength over the years that many of us are getting back to just in case something happens and this technology is not going to be at our fingertips all the time. Did you know that whether it could be something that, like an EMP, electromagnetic pulse device that could be knocking our electrical grids out of service, knock all of the electronics out of service, cause all your cars not to be able to work. None of your computers would work. None of your phones would work. If just we were attacked by EMP. EMP, electronic magnetic device. You know, it's a very dangerous tool because it shuts everything down. Can you imagine? So I don't know about you, but I want to be ready. I want to be ready no matter what. I believe I owe that to my family, to embrace the things of the past that were capable of people surviving, helping people survive, whether they had the technology or the modern day inventions and devices that we have today. We need to be prepared to be able to not only appreciate what we have today, but to also be ready just in case all that technology is taken away from us, or that ability to use modern technology is taken away from us for whatever reason it may be. We need to be ready. That's part of being responsible as a father, as a grandfather like me, as someone who says, you know, what if my electricity is out and I don't have an off-grid ability to have electricity in my location? Then what do I do? How do I keep my food from going bad? How do I keep my food from spoiling? Well, years ago, and even in modern days here, people are still doing what we call canning. And so we've been canning. We've been putting food preserved in mason jars. We're also exploring a lot of other traditional technologies that were known years ago on how to preserve foods, so that if for some reason things are not available the way they are to us at the tip of our fingertips, that we have that ability to be able to survive and to be able to thrive and not to be affected as much. And I will tell you something. In some ways we backed up when we went towards certain ways. The supermarket is not necessarily our livelihood. It's you and your decisions that are your livelihood. Your supermarket shelves, when they go empty, is not going to provide you the ability to survive. Your supermarket, when the food that is available is so outpriced that the typical person is not able to afford it, you're going to see those days, and they're coming. We're already seeing the price of food astronomically higher than it was not long ago. Did you know back in June that a dozen eggs was only a little over $3 a dozen? Do you know now people are paying upwards of $8 and $9 a dozen for a dozen eggs? That's 300% increase. That's not the typical inflation rates that you're hearing about from the news. That's much more than that. If they were to divide it up where you had poultry or pork or beef, lamb, chicken, all the other types of meat and meat byproducts that are coming from the farm, whether it be milk, cheese, whatever it may be, you're going to see that because the price of grain, how much it has gone up, and with the bird flu and other reasons that they say is the reason for the cost of chicken and cost of eggs have gone up, you're going to see that the inflation rate is much higher than the 8% or 9%, or some say 14%. It's nowhere close to that. It's more like between 40 and 500%. Some things are 5 times higher than they used to be. Some things are 40% higher than they used to be, but they're definitely much higher than the 8%. So inflation rates that are averaged in, or some things are averaged in based on, say, lumber. Lumber costs have gone down recently. You know why lumber costs have gone down, and you know why that factors into a an average when it's divided out, where inflation is pulled down by that number, the cost of lumber has gone down for a reason. You know what that reason is because the housing industry, the building of houses has gone down because the interest rates have gone up. The demand for new homes is going down. And that causes lumber prices to tank and go down to the bottom. And that's averaged in to your inflation rates. So as you're looking at eggs being 300% and you're looking at lumber dropping in price, that averages out, and they look at all those numbers. They make sure they don't miss anything so they can say, oh, our inflation is 8%. Don't believe everything that you hear. Don't believe me for everything I say. Check it out. I'm not telling you to Google it. I'm telling you to really check it out and figure out what the truth really is. Anyway, I'm going to get some things done here. And I appreciate you joining me here on the Welch Family Homestead channel. Did you hear Ataru in the background calling me? I've got him locked up in the barn because of all these storms that's going through, and I didn't want the chickens to get caught out in the storm, and I want to make sure they were protected. So anyway, God bless you. Appreciate you joining me here on the Welch Family Homestead YouTube channel. Please subscribe, get those notifications, hit that notification button, and become part of our family. God bless you.